All right. All right. Welcome to Witchpolice Radio. If you're a regular listener to the show who's been listening lately, you would be aware that I've had a lot of guest hosts coming on to sort of help with the quantity of episodes that I do. And one of the guest hosts is on the show today. And so I think that, people who heard that episode might have some idea of who you are. But for those who don't, if you want to introduce yourself, give a bit of background about what it is you do as a podcaster and beyond, that would be a great way to start.
For sure. Thank you, Sam, for having me on the show. My name is Ronald George Moore, and I host a podcast called the Manitoba Moneyshot podcast. I do 2 shows a week, 3 if you're a Patreon member. And I also like to interview Manitoba artists, much like yourself, musicians, actors, writers, anyone I think's really cool, basically. So that's
yeah. Well, and that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show too. This is kind of a long time coming. We should have done this ages ago, but yeah, I mean, I always like to promote other local podcasts, and what you're doing does have some similarities to this show in the sense that yeah, you're talking to artists. You had Romy Mays on recently. You did the BS Raps episode for my show. I mean, you're definitely involved in the music scene, and I always say that Witchpolice is for interviewing local musicians and music scene adjacent people. And I think you qualify in that category. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't really have an album or a single out there, but I feel like I should have one. But maybe by the time this out, I'll have something on Apple Music or something.
Right on, right on. Yeah. So, I guess what is for people who aren't aware, what is the Moneyshot? Because I the podcast, because I've been on the show before, and there was this very interesting competition aspect of it at the end, and that kind of gives it its name. Yeah. So, what's the deal behind?
You were the first winner, Sam. You were the first one. First guest to actually win the Moneyshot. And basically, that's just a challenge of answering 100 questions within a 5-minute time period. And, it's just rapid fire. Generally, I think it breaks down to about 3 seconds for the question and answer. So it's about myself and the guest working together as best we can to get through not just the answers, but the question and the answer.
Yeah.
And also, there's a few rules in there, but you can't just repeat the same thing. You can't just go blah, blah, blah. You have to basically keep it legit. And I always say 90% of the answers have to be true. If you for it to qualify, like if you say like you like cheese in the interview and then you say like you hate cheese in the rapid fire Moneyshot, then that doesn't count. But it's never really gotten to that because in the early days of when I'd interview a guest, I made the question so long and awkward that it was impossible to win. It was just impossible. So as I learned through doing the show, I made the questions much more easier and like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite this? What's this? And, yes or no, and more easier for the guest to win.
Yeah. Well, it seems like just a matter of being able to talk fast and come up with answers quickly rather than come up with great answers. Just come up with an answer. Just any answer, right?
Well, the idea of the show was first built on just the name, Manitoba Moneyshot. I'm like, oh, that's a great name for a podcast. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? And I was like thinking, well, maybe it's a challenge of just answering questions and you would win money. And you did. I can't remember how much you won at the time, but it was like a growing pot. Every time someone didn't win, I just added another $2 or $3 towards the Moneyshot. And so it must have been pretty nice for you.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. Yeah.
Great interview, Sam, because the best part the thing I love about it is the editing and splicing in clips of the artist in the show. And we're in so many bands. It was so much fun just pouring over your work in the past and just finding clips that I could put in there. And I just really like that, almost like breaking up chapters to a story.
Yeah. Oh, and that's kind of, I like doing that on my show too, with using songs by the interviewees to sort of, because it breaks up the conversation a bit, right? It just kind of makes a natural pause. If there is a natural pause in the discussion, you can sort of flow from one thought to another one by throwing some music or a clip or something in there. So I'm sorry you had to listen to my shitty bands, but
no, you always say you have shitty bands, but I really fucking enjoy them. I think they're awesome. Like, it's not just you have your ska band, you have kind of your spacey trippy band, and then kind of like noise band. So it's very cool, and I love that you just put out a tape. A year ago, 2 years ago, you re-released.
Yeah, that was old stuff. That was the Mothboat. It was all of the songs from the 3 EPs kind of crammed onto one tape. And that was it's not really a new tape, but it was a limited edition that Ancient Raven Records put out of all of our old crap. So it was cool.
But it's so much fun, right? It's so much fun to do that, just to be able to have something that you can pull up from your background and just say, "Hey, look what I did," you know. And even if you think it's shitty, a lot of people I know don't think that. So,
Well, no, and that's good. I mean, I'm glad that there are people who like it. Yeah, it's that thing where you listen to something you do, or read something you do, or watch something you do, and there's always that like, oh, this sucks. But the good parts about it are what everyone else is getting. That aside, though, I was going to ask you, how long have you been doing the show for? Because you've been sort of part of the Manitoba podcast community. We have those little meetups we do once a month. We try to sort of get all the local shows involved and hanging out and talking shop and sharing ideas and stuff. And you've been coming for a while to those. So what's the timeline on your show?
well, I think I started in 2018. 2018, where I simply wanted, well, it's just that's what I did. I just was asking, friends and people I admired if I would be able to interview them, kind of
Yeah,
like a Mark Maron style, deep dive into like their career, where they're from and how they got to where they are. And then, but that would take 2 to 3 weeks to get an episode together. So I always just kind of felt like that's kind of like dead air. Like who's gonna, like it's with podcasting, it's great because the notification comes up. But I just wanted something a little more, frequent. In the
yeah,
show, not only do I do the interview and edit it and add samples of the artist's work, I also like to, after the interview, I will take inspiration from it, like something, a little piece. Maybe they mention a restaurant or something, and I was making opening bits. So basically, I felt like I'm going to do like a song or a sketch or pull something just from my past and to have it on display there at the beginning of the show. And I was doing that for the longest time until I realized, well, I kind of felt it was like an opening, like an opening band for an artist, like you go first and let the headliner go last. But then I realized
sure.
that's kind of lame because like people will tune in for the guest, not for me, and then they have to sit through. Maybe they don't want to hear Robin's Donuts parody.
Well,
Maybe they don't think it's that funny or they think that song is lame. So the opening bit is it's at the end now, which I think is a much better flow. Well, anyways, what I'm getting at, it was a lot of work to do that. And I thought, it's really, I should be putting out something a little more frequent. And that's when I decided to do like the Tuesday Titter, which is basically just a rant, and then the Friday Foreplay, where I just kind of recommend something that's either going on in the city or maybe like a Burton Cummings album, one of your favorites, Sam, or
Yeah,
just like anything
my
that
views on Burton
happen to
Cummings
be.
are well established. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But this new album is not bad. It's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good. Give it a
I
listen.
I didn't even realize he had a new album. So yeah.
I know. You got to follow the man to know what he's doing.
Right, of course.
Sam.
I was following
He's
the lawsuit, and I talked about that at length on the Sean Geek podcast on an episode that's coming out too. And then this is kind of what I wanted to talk about is we have this community. I mean, that show, I've been on that show, you've been on that show, they've been on your show. We have Ruby with Living Through Extinction. We have two baked girls. We've been on each other's shows there too. There's a nice little sort of gang of podcasters that
I
we've
think that's
developed.
what's great. I think it's what's great about the local community here is like everyone kind of like listen to other shows and they know each other or at least get to each other. That's a lot of fun, It's like
Yeah,
going to Comic Con. I remember when you guys were doing it, the last one at the Park Theater was huge. It was like a 3-day event, and I didn't know anybody, and I forced myself to go down because sometimes it's just so hard if you don't know anybody. And I had my kids at the time, but I had a bit of a babysitter for an hour, so I kind of poked my head in just at the right time when you said, "All right, everyone on stage."
oh, are you
So
in that photo? Are you in the photo?
I'm in the photo. You have this big group photo, and basically I got in just for the photo, and I kind of looked around. I was like, "Oh, there's Sam." I just only knew you at the time.
Yeah.
But that was really a lot of fun, and I just really thought, if I'm doing a podcast, you got to go all in, and you just want to like promote and get to know each other. And even though like since then, I've gotten to know a lot of people, and it's just been a lot of fun. Not only meeting them, but I listen to a lot of the local podcasters in Manitoba.
For sure, and so do I. And then we have like I'm on most of their Patreons and supporting them that way and stuff. And it's great. It's a nice little community. And I have to ask you about the Robin's Donuts thing. I mean, for people who don't know, we meet at Robin's Donuts once a month. This sort of podcast group, and we were doing that for a while. And at some point, it just sort of I think it dawned on all of us that you were very very into Robin's Donuts. I mean, I think you're wearing a Robin's hat right now. When we're talking, you
Right.
have all the props. Most of your social media is Robin's related.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who likes Robin's Donuts, as a casual enjoyer of Robin's Donuts, uh, I kind of get it, but you take it to the next level. So what is the significance of Robin's to you?
Well, I get that question a lot actually, because I do have a lot of things. I have a bit of a collection, as you said. And boy, was I jazzed when I was like, wow, they're meeting at Robin's Donuts. Oh my God. I remember once I went and I could not get it. I was just so shy. I couldn't go in. I was like, oh my God. But I think the attraction for me is it just reminds me of home and family,
Okay.
like back even when I was a kid, after church I grew up in Fort Richmond, like in the south end of the city, and there's a beautiful big Robin's a beautiful big Robin's Donuts there that my dad and mom would take me and my sisters to after church and or really any occasion after a hockey game, ringette game, that kind of thing. And I think subliminally that's where it came from. I think it took some therapy to realize that. But and I don't know, it's just fun to collect things. I used to collect comic books. I used to collect I don't know, other things, hats, I guess. But no, like Robin's Donuts, and just because like I'm like, wow, there's so much stuff that I didn't even know about. And even now, I'll show you right now. This one I just is my most recent thing. Is
Oh,
this
nice.
Robin? Oh, I guess it's gonna be blurred, but Robin's Donuts. Look at that logo. This Robin, I haven't found on any other piece of Robin's merch or hat, mug, thermos, whatever. This has got to be the original one. So
That's
I'm like,
cool.
wow, an amazing thing that Carolyn Gray, my girlfriend, got me. Hey, honey, how you doing? And but I'll tell you something else since we're on Robin's Donuts. Since I know you're a fan, do you
Sure.
know that 2020, what is it? Yeah, and next year, Robin's Donuts turns 50 years old.
Wow.
Okay. But according to Thunder Bay Museum, their 50th birthday is what was it? September 10th, 2024. We missed it. Everyone missed. According to the Thunder Bay Museum, they've already had their 50th birthday, and like Robbins didn't recognize it on their Instagram or Facebook, or no one. It just no one really cares about Robbins Donuts, I guess, except a few dying old people like me. So
What is the
yeah, it was just I found that incredible.
is there a goal with this
Sorry, go
collection
ahead.
of stuff? I was gonna say, is there a goal with this collection of stuff you have? Because I mean, not that you're gonna make a Robin's Donuts museum or whatever, but like that thing you just showed
No,
me, that divider, that with the ancient logo, like that's pretty cool stuff to have. I don't think most people have even seen that logo, who are around today. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
let
Like I
alone
can't find it on the internet at all. It's just not there.
yeah.
No, it's not on the internet. So yeah.
Have you reached out to
So
Robin's at all?
I they know me. They definitely know me. I have been sent a backpack and a blanket, Robin's Donuts blanket, socks. I have Robin's
Oh,
Donuts socks, and that's more like a contest they were having. And chairman, what is it? Chairman brands, chairman's no, oh God, what is it called? Chair, their parent company, which is hilarious. I can't remember it. I was just dealing with them. I've reached. I've left messages with them, and they've never gotten back to me. And they usually have their sip to win
yeah.
contest. Donuts will have that every once in a while. And I read the rules, and it said that you can enter as often as you want. You don't even have to buy anything. You just send them a letter with a self-addressed stamp. So I was sending them one every fucking day, like for a good 2, 3 weeks. And they sent me back one envelope. I was like, what? And of course, it came with a little coffee roll up that said not a winner or whatever. So yeah, I've reached out to them, and I've talked to some amazing employees in the 8 Robin's Donuts we have left in the province,
Yeah, it's
which
sad.
is
There's I only know of a few in Winnipeg and then the one in Gimli. I'm sure there's more, and I'm sure you know where they are. But as far as
yeah.
Robins though, like I know it's not sort of the focus of your podcast, but have you ever thought of doing some kind of like Robins history on your show? I mean, you seem to be like the the Robins archivist as far as anyone else I've heard of, right? So I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know how difficult that would be to do, but like some kind of mini documentary on Robins Donuts would be fascinating to listen to.
Well, I'm not the only one for sure that loves Robin's Donuts, and I think that would be just too much work for me. I like as I said, when I have an interview, I put a lot of work into it, and then like the podcast just takes up a lot of time, and for that would have to be like a 6 episodic adventure, I think.
Yeah,
Like it's
miniseries.
also hard. As I said, we can't even pin down the date it was born in Thunder Bay, 1974, 1975. So it is interesting though, Sam. Maybe if I have some sort of staycation next year, I can focus on that. But there's just so much to do, not only in my personal life, but just to go see shows in the city. There's always something to do. So that's
Yeah.
that's a hard one. It's a
Well,
hard one to pin down. Barely do
and I,
laundry.
right, oh, yeah, that's important too. But I just, you mentioned going to shows. I know you go to a lot of local shows, and I should probably try to tie this into to local music somehow because that's sort of the theme of my podcast here. But what is your like? How long have you been going to shows? What's your experience in the local music scene as a concert goer?
Oh gosh. Well, since the 90s, I guess, like yeah, probably about the early 90s. Well, it's like everyone, we had friends who were in bands. You want to support your friends, you go see their bands.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I was going to quite a few, like the Pyramid too. The Pyramid was always a great place to catch Canadian bands traveling in and out of the city, oh, I don't know, that big jazzy one from Montreal. What the fuck was it called? So, Me, Mom, and Morgenthaler. I
yeah, they're
remember every
great.
time they came to town, that was always a thrill. And just like, because I love to dance, I love to sing. I'm a song and dance man, really. And then so yeah, it was just so much fun. I love just going to these shows and just kicking up the feet and just having a blast, like. And so, but also the best part about Winnipeg is like, it's not like, it's kind of known as a heavy metal rock city, I guess, but you get so much flow of different styles and genres. It really exposes you to other, out forms. This is me on my show, man. I wish I could edit. That's the one thing. Giving up the control to you is hard, I'll tell you that. But
It's
yeah, I'd love to go and see shows. I just it's so much fun, it's just, yeah. I don't dance as much, but I still drink as much, I guess.
fair enough. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot here or anything, but I know you play music sort of off the grid. You're not actually
Yeah.
playing shows or anything. Have you
No.
has that always been the case for you? You're just kind of doing it as a side fun thing, or had you ever had aspirations to go out and play a lot of shows and stuff like that?
Yeah, I always wanted to be in a band myself. I took piano lessons and guitar lessons, and I'm just shit. Like I just cannot, I'm no good. Maybe I can keep a rhythm on a guitar, but I do not have the dexterity or talent that really would impress or interest anyone. But I do like to sing. So I've been in bands as a singer and a bass player. I've done fringe shows where I did a whole fringe show called Solid Gold Moor, and the whole idea of the show is you spin a wheel, and then whatever would come up on the wheel would be like the sketch or song that we would do. And so I had a
Cool.
few songs in that show. I did a show as Fat Gord Downey once, which was a lot of fun at the Cavern, where it was me and my band. We just did Tragically Hip covers, but I just ate the entire time. I would sing Gord Downey songs and try to do my best impression of him, and while eating spaghetti and Cheetos and getting a head rush from a Slurpee and that. And that was like so much fun. So I'd really love to bring that back. But of course, with the tragedy of his passing, you can't really. I don't know if Fat Gord Downey's the way to go, but at some point in the future, I'd love to be in a Tragically Hip cover band, and that'd be so much fun. And but
When
I have like a song called Dead Poodle, Fucking All Day. Some of these songs are attached to, as I said, opening bits to the artists on the podcast. And if you do
Yeah,
go to the Moneyshot podcast on SoundCloud, if you go to the playlist, you can see a list of all the artists, and each one of those artists does have an opening bit, whether it's a Kern Hill co-op parody of their commercial, as I said, or like I really do love my Robin's Donuts. The two guys, George Spencer and Harvey Cardwell. I've just done parodies of them for some reason, still doing Robin's Donuts commercials, and it's like 5 or 6 I've done over the years, and I'm still pretty proud of those. So it's just fun to keep creative in that way. I find like
for
something
sure.
to do.
Well, I like the kind of performance art aspect of it too, like the Fat Gord Downey thing. I mean, you could do that with some other singer and still do eating spaghetti. I mean, I'd love to watch someone eating spaghetti while trying to sing, just in any context, right? So I think it's a
Wasn't that
reusable.
well? I don't know if it was around that time, but wasn't there like the Pizza Underground, and it was
Yes.
a little bit underground, and they were just eating pizza the whole show, or
Yep.
maybe they were singing about pizza.
I can't remember, but there was also someone made a video podcast around that time, and it was just about pizza. They would make a pizza and eat the pizza and just talk about pizza the whole time. And it only lasted a few episodes, and I wish it had gone longer because the concept was hilarious. It was just they're just sitting
It
there eating
wasn't
pizza.
it wasn't Sean Keek and Fast Fred. They're obsessed with pizza these
They
days.
are,
So
yeah. They I was on their show recently. They asked me about toppings first
yeah, I
thing.
heard that. That's good.
So with your show, I mean, for people who are unfamiliar with it, is
Yeah.
there? Because I mean, with my show, I have so many episodes that if someone asks what episode should you listen to, I just say listen to the newest one. You'll get the idea, or look through the guests and see if there's an artist you like. Is there a starting point that you would direct someone to for the Manitoba Money Shot, or is it the same kind of thing? Just pick one
Yeah, it's kind of this. It's the same. I definitely recommend going to the playlist. And because like it's not only is do I put the most work into those episodes, I always feel really fortunate that I have someone and that there's some guests I've never met before until they came over to my place and we just or studio I should say, not place, but or just talk. And I always find that that's really exciting, to have not only the interviewing this person I really admire, but it's the first time we ever spoke to each other. I think that's pretty cool. And then like occasionally I'll like for the Friday foreplay, I would talk about something I really like. And then I'm like, well, this is why don't it just felt kind of strange talking about like say someone's new album and them and they're not there. They're why don't I'm so like someone's like, hey, I really like your album. Can we talk about it? Like Mild Homely. I've never met him before. He released this fantastic album.
It's a good record.
Oh my God. What's it called? Hard? No, not window
Dirt,
pane.
dirt,
Dirty pane.
dirty pain. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta get a hold of this guy. I just talked to him. And it was awesome. That's one of my favorite ones, actually. Mild Home. And that's a Friday foreplay. I was like, I just wanted to interview someone without the, a little shorter,
Yeah.
not the rapid fire questions. I don't like losing money. And so that's all. I'm not sponsored. There's nobody giving me money. That if I have somebody who wins $10, it's coming out of my pocket. Gee, you know what I'm saying? Like, whew, it's rough.
For sure.
So
For
I would
sure.
say that I would say go to the playlist, see if there's someone you're interested in, and there's going to be obviously many people that you're interested in because I am as well, and they're just fantastic. And that was it. I just want to share the Manitoba Gold with everyone. That was the reason I started it. That's still why I do it.
That's awesome. Do you have a like an episode count at this point? Because I know you have all these extra episodes. That I imagine you have quite a few with those, the foreplay and titter and all
Yeah,
these things.
right. Well, then I think about year two, I was like, oh, Patreon, what's this? Oh, this is a way, I could, if someone wanted to support the show, I can have a Patreon. But then what am I do? What am I going to do on Patreon? So then I kind of removed some of the early Tuesday titters, which I used to call Tuesday Tango, and Friday foreplays, and I took them off the SoundCloud and I just moved them to the Patreon. But it's weird. Patreon's still I don't really understand it that well, and I was never one. I'm like, I thought if everyone's gonna just do something, I'm gonna do the opposite as much as best I can, right? And everyone labels their episode. This is episode 72 or whatever, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. So I really don't know how many episodes that I've done. I think it's around 500, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Just seeing your how prolific you are, because I mean, I think I give you $1 a month on Patreon, and I obviously
Oh yeah,
subscribe to
absolutely.
your show and everything. And yeah, you're constantly churning out content. So I'm glad
Yeah,
you're
and
still doing it too. Like I'm glad you're still actively like putting out that much stuff.
yeah, well, I figure it's pretty much one of those things like it's just something you love to do, and you're not going to retire. You're not going to stop. You're going to keep doing it until you
Can't
die.
stop,
And
won't stop. Yeah,
so the Patreon, I was like, well, what can I do in this? And I'm like, well, I'll do a fucking third show. I'm doing two a week. I'll just do a third one just for the Patreon members. Call it Sunday Swallow.
right.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna talk directly to the people who have signed up. And so far there are six who I call the super sexy six. You being one. I've given you all nicknames. You're the Sarge, and and it's just a lot of fun. It's just really fun. And then I also apologize. I fuck up constantly in my life, especially with my girlfriend. I'm always making mistakes at work and shit. So generally, I every week I'll apologize for something I messed up, and it's really not that hard. Though, especially to an audience of six.
Yeah, I guess so, right? That it helps. That there's a limited audience, and you know all of them too, right? It's all people I assume that you know personally.
Yes, yes, exactly. So it's direct. I don't know if I've apologized to you, Sam, but generally it's to the people of the Patreon or yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, it's just a lot of fun and it's something to do, something to. I always That's what I liked about it because I just found like you've been in a couple bands here and there, but once they go away, you're like, well, what do I do now? And it's just you just gotta find something to do with your time.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think the podcast thing is become the new sort of DIY punk rock in the sense, like not as, not like we're making punk rock music or anything, but like the kind of aesthetic of it, where you take you have nothing, you start from scratch, like the Sean Gay podcast. They started on a cell phone, they started talking to each other on a
Yeah,
phone and
yeah,
recording
yeah.
that, right? And so there's like this really low barrier to entry for podcasting, and I think that's why it's so awesome, is because anyone who has something to say, whatever it is, they can hit record, throw it on the internet, and then it's out there. And obviously, there's next levels and stuff for recording equipment and quality and
Mhm.
putting it onto the internet properly. But
Yeah.
you can just do it. And I think that a lot of people get discouraged because they think they need to have some kind of fancy production. But I think
Yeah,
that, like,
and that was the thing how I started. Like I didn't know what the hell how to do it.
either did
I
I.
remember I heard also the reason I started podcasting is because I was listening to a lot of podcasters because I was driving, I've been having driving jobs my whole life, so it was a lot of radio, and then all of a sudden I'm driving a vehicle with Bluetooth, so I'd be playing podcasts. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? Ashley Burdett talking Hanks. That was like my first one where I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is a Winnipegger talking
Yeah,
about
that was a
punk.
local show. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I really loved it. And I was like, well, how do you do that? So I just went on YouTube, like, how do you start a podcast? It's that simple. And then it's just like, go get some stupid mics and figure out the RSS thing. And yeah, anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. It's easy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that hopefully our little group of podcasters is trying to encourage anyone to do it. I mean, that's kind of the idea behind it in the first place, right? It was like, A, get to know each other because we're all doing the same thing, but B, just like convince people to keep going because I don't want to be the only one doing it.
I don't know, Sam. You're like kind of like the kingpin of the podcasters, I would say, in the province. Definitely you're I think we were talking about this before, how it's like I can't think of anyone who's been doing it longer than you in the city. But you were saying there's a couple of sports guys somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's some sports guys and some video game guys that are not sort of as public as the rest of us are, that they're just kind of I'm sure they have decent audiences that are really clued into their thing. So,
And that's the
I,
other thing about it being yourself, right? Because it's like Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah, you can stop for whatever and then pick it up in 2 years. Like congratulations on your nomination for the Loud Awards, but I believe the winner didn't even have an episode of their podcast come out in the last year. So it's kind of like wow, it's what it they did it and they may do it again now that they won the Loud Award,
Well,
right?
hopefully, right? I mean, it'd be nice to see. Yeah, that's a whole other thing that the louder words, but yeah, at least it's giving recognition to somebody who has done it, and maybe it'll convince them to keep going. But with your show, where do people find it? How can someone tune into an episode of the Manitoba Money Shot or any of
Well,
its offshoots?
I like to tell people that, well, it is the truth. We're on SoundCloud. I chose SoundCloud.com, which I don't know is the best homepage for, or not homepage. They're not known for podcasting. Like there's other sites like I think Podbean, usually a
Right.
pod title, they're pretty much focused on podcasting, but SoundCloud's more music oriented. And I get tons of emails all week telling me that they really like my cool tune. And I'm like, it's not even a fucking song, but anyway, yeah, soundcloud.com. You can look up the Manitoba Money Shot podcast there, or on Apple Music, Stitcher. I can't keep saying Stitcher.
Stitcher's dead now, I think. Right? It's
Everything. I know I am the worst at keeping up with all the little things. And that's the other thing why I'm so impressed with you, Sam, is because you're so good at updating and getting out on social media, like what's coming up. I just recorded this. It's coming out here. Have you listened to it? Last chance, I'm going to remind you. Like
yeah.
you're so good at that.
I just
And
have
I
a
find
routine. It's a routine. It's the checklist, right? It's like this
it
day I do
is.
this day I do that, and that's all it is.
Right, right. Wow. Well, it's just amazing. And you know who else is good at is Michael from the Real Debaters. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like not only and the quality of his posts are insane. Like just so good. And I also love the fact that they're more than just podcasts. They're doing live events. They're doing movies. They're at Comic-Con, they're fucking at the Fringe asking people, which is better, theater or film.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of great local stuff here. The Manitoba Moneyshot podcast on Instagram and YouTube. TikTok rounds was more. I got to get more into that. I don't really do much of that. What else?
I don't get it. I have TikTok, but I don't get it. I have it where I just post anything video related. I just post it on there. Hope for the best. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know how to get engagement on it or whatever. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know who's watching it or whatever, but it's there.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't have time for that. I can't get into the stats and that kind of stuff. Like SoundCloud does give me results of who's listening around the world, and that's really cool. But other than that, I it's hard to learn a new platform when you already have enough trouble with the one you're already on, right? So yeah, SoundCloud is basically I do love SoundCloud though. I'm not trying to shit on them, but like they're really good to use for podcasting simply because if you upload a file and you listen to it, like just in your car or whatever for volume's sake, and then if something's wrong, you could, and I think this is common, but I didn't realize this, but you could re-upload the file without changing the view count or listen count and all that.
Yeah, or the link stays the same, and people who are gonna, they can go back to it, and it'll be the same for sure.
Yeah. But so yeah,
I was gonna say, obviously SoundCloud is where you want people to go to hear it. But if someone wants to find out more about the show and maybe what you're doing, whatever you're posting on social media as far as upcoming episodes, look at pictures of Robin's Donuts shit, what's the best way to find you sort of outside of SoundCloud? Where can they follow your antics?
Well, I guess it would be Instagram is so it's _Manitoba_Moneyshot_podcast, right? And don't write out an underscore, obviously. And then also, you can always email me. I do have an email address, the Manitoba Moneyshot Podcast @gmail.com. I started a year ago. I received one email from some platform that, I don't know. You get so many emails about stuff there. It's just crazy. I'm not, I don't trust anything on the internet, any kind of email, except yours, listener. If you email me a question about Manitoba or whatever, I don't care. But any platform saying they want me to join their service, no, I can't do that. No.
Yeah, it's questionable. But people should go to SoundCloud. They should go to your Instagram. I'll link to all that in the show notes. And I really like your show. I'm glad you're still doing it. I'm glad you've been tenacious at putting out content for all these years, and I hope you continue to do it for many more. And I'm glad that the podcast community introduced me to you and all these other people too, who now I consider to be friends, and I'm happy to listen to everything they're doing too.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I do apologize. This should be a Sunday swallow, but I apologize, and I have apologized for this because I have a real hard time getting the episode out on the day. Like I'm already what is it? Tuesday Titter was yesterday, and I haven't put it out yet, and that's only because I like to record in the morning with a fresh cup of Robins in my hand. And my girlfriend, she goes to Fit Club, so the house is empty, and that's the best part. Usually, if she comes home, I can still do it, but once it's after work, I'm done. I can't do it. It's got to be in the morning. So, but generally, I'll try to keep it on time for you folks.
Sounds good.